Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm your co-host, Gabriel Carter. I am here today with my co-host, Alex Coffey. And today we have a special guest, as always. Actually, it's not special. Sam has always been with us on and off. So it's good to have him here today. Today's discussion is going to be about, the possibility of establishing a stock market in Liberia, the benefits, whether we're ready for it, what the benefits are for the country and especially for the people, and what it could actually do for us, in terms of advancing us economically. So it's great to have you wherever you are. We usually ask you to please share the podcast and come with your questions. Of course, we have an expert here on that. Sam is going to be talking to us about it. So come with all your questions and stick with us for the next hour and a half. Sam, great seeing you, old man. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gabriel. I'm very glad to be back here. It has been a while. I've been extremely busy the last couple of years, going to school. Graduated in July, and now back here in Liberia, watching the crazy political scene. My brother Alex Coffey, long time, has a lovely wife and the family. How's everybody doing, buddy?
We're doing fine, my man. And I don't know what to say about all your recent development with your photo on the show, lifting all your woman and going to the market and talking to the scrap men and all that kind of stuff, man.
Well, I've been having a great life. I've been having a great life, an enjoyable life. Yeah, on all continents I've been moving, but I'm here. This is where I love to be, Liberia. Where my neighborhood is buried, where I have the most fun, where I self-actualize more. We all have a lot of options. All of us who manage to have the credentials and the.
You're strong. You're strong. You pick up a whole woman, man.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I was like, man, I need to go to the gym more.
Well, no, but I went to boot camp. So when you go to boot camp, it stays in you. The strength, it stays in you.
Alex, take note.
I'm jealous, my man. We won't go to the gym. Even with the younger people, won't go to the gym.
Right. No, it helps if the woman it has a in terms of a body mass, because she's very, very light skinned. We said not light skinned, she's very lightweight. So that helps. But I was talking to Loma girl from Fusibu with Bin Tuma. I wasn't going to.
Don't go there. Don't go there, please, sir. A disclaimer. We got to put a disclaimer out there.
No, but I like Loma girl, but I can't lift them up. That's all. Got the Tuma too big.
All that fufu we're not eating.
The tabagi. Yeah. Okay, guys. No, but it is great to see you guys, and I'm looking forward to having this discussion. It's my passion of having a capital market in Liberia. It is needed more than ever before, and I think people just need to understand what are the steps, what it is, and and what are the benefits. So shoot, guys. Let me hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah. So we, as I was saying before we came on air, there's been pockets of the conversation about establishing a stock market. It actually goes further, way back in 2015. That's what, and people have tried to wheel me in every now and then, but that conversation never materializes. And I don't know. So there's been like a bottleneck somewhere here or there, whether there's a buy-in from the government or whatever it is. But I think every one of us on this show here knows the benefit of having a stock market in a country having a stock market, specifically what it can do for the country, how it can help companies in our country raise capital, as opposed to just going to the bank and trying to get money, and also how it can help those companies grow. If a company is able to raise capital on the private market, on the public market, they're able to reinvest that money into their business and be able to grow to a level of extent, which is subsequently can, create a lot of possibilities such as job and help, build wealth in our country, But we've been, as I said, that conversation has been stagnant. So today, what we want to do is, talk about, specifically what the stock market is because of the audience that we have, what are the benefits of it, how it can benefit Liberia. And the most important question I think to that is, are we ready to have a stock market? Do we have the prerequisites to have a stock market? So that's the discussion we want to have today. And as I said, it's great having you here. So maybe you're the guest here. So we want to tap into your brains on this very specific discussion and topic today. So on that note, for the audience, what would you say a stock market is? What from a put in the layman terms of what a stock market is?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So basically, if you talk about stock, you talk about ownership, right? You own a company, right? And if you don't have any debt, okay, all of your assets equals to your net worth, which is the stock, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but so that's the basic thing, right? And people need to understand too that when they think of stock market, they automatically go to the NASDAQ, they go to Strat, they go to some kind of electronic platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you start looking at NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and you start looking at Strat, you will be thinking like, my goodness, it would take light years for us to, go into a stock market. But but you can have a stock market and you can have a special kind of a stock market because like even the New York Stock Exchange started in a bar, Francis Tavern, right on Wall Street, as you know, right?
Yep.
Well, business people came and it had scripts, right? And these scripts represented ownership in their companies and they sold it, right? And it was not like a real-time active trading. It just went there maybe once a week, once a month, and they traded. So, and then people need to understand that a stock market is also something we call a secondary market. A secondary market, meaning that, okay, when you issue stock, people own the stock, right? Then they have to have a place where that stock is traded.
Absolutely.
Right? Because there are three key things in investment. Okay. Number one, safety, then liquidity, and then income, right? Mm-hmm. So what the stock market does for you is provides the liquidity. When you have a market maker, a ready market maker, where people who want to buy and people who want to sell, they meet at that place and they can buy and sell a stock. Okay. So Liberia already has companies that they are privately held company, but they have issued stock, right? So, and those stocks are basically held by people, and there's not a conduit like a brokerage to provide liquidity. So, for example, if I own, say, Semenco, right? If I own Semenco stock, and I want to go and sell my Semenco stock, there is no place I can take the Semenco stock and I can cash it in, right? The option I may have, I may go to a bank and they can use it as a collateral for a loan. They can give it to me, right? But if we have a stock market, Semenco and other companies that are already existing in Liberia with stock, those stocks can be listed on that exchange, and then we can see the value of it as trading goes on. Like, look at Sierra Leone. The last time I checked, they had a stock market, but they didn't even do daily trading. They did like monthly trading, right? So now that people have an understanding now what a stock is only ownership in a company. And that ownership there, the value is protected by the underlying assets of the corporation. And sometimes, I don't want to get complicated here. Alex is the finance expert, but if we look at the future cash flows, dividends, and all that one, and I don't want to get too technical, right? But we're going to get to that. But where we are right now is that stock represent ownership in a company. That's what a stock is. So a share of that company, right? Okay, represents that you own a part of that company. That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So that means
Alex.
that ownership requires you putting money down, right?
Exactly. So how did you acquire it, right? So if you're a private company and it's owned by one person, okay, and it's just a proprietorship, right? You own all the stock, right? If it's a limited liability corporation with multiple owners, then they have stocks based upon whatever the par value of those shares were when those shares were issued. Now, bear in mind there are different kinds of shares. You can have that are issued but are not outstanding. And Alex, you can correct me on that, right? Because you have authorized shares. The company said we have the authorized shares, but they may not be subscribed to. And I don't want to get complicated by also going to in develop what we develop financial institutions. You have investment companies that take you to the stock market, right? If you want, okay, you have an IPO. Okay, you
IPO.
own a company. Say like you have Semenco. Let's say Semenco is all privately held, one owner. Okay, but Semenco decides that it wants to go public, right? It wants to go public. It means that it wants to sell its shares to the public. So then what will happen? It will go to an investment company. An investment company will do an analysis, okay, the financials, determine the asset value, and then they will write something called a prospectus. In the United States, it's a 10K prospectus, which is a full disclosure document that tells you everything about the company. It tells you about the management, it tells you about the ownership, it tells you about the history, and it tells you about the potential. That is what you are required to do by the Securities and Exchange Commission before you can take your share public, right? But you can also do something called a Regulation D placement, which is called private placement, right? You have a private company, and then you are allowed by law to go to your friends, your family, your doctor, and other people and sell them shares. And you don't have to be regulated by the SEC, right?
Right.
But a Regulation D or private placement, the investor must have certain profile. He must be a sophisticated person. He must be high net worth. All of those things. These are things that are done to protect the public from people just issuing shares worthless without, this is the fiduciary responsibility of the state to protect investors. So when you have a company and you want to take it public, I mean, that is, Gabriel, I don't know if you ever had a private company that you took public. I mean, the amount of paperwork that is required is tremendous. Okay, so let's come back to the Liberian situation now. So you have this company, you have the Semenco, you have LBDI, you have all these other, and then you have some public corporations too that might want to just issue bits of shares, So what happens is that the prime objective is to raise capital, right?
Absolutely.
To raise capital, and also to get to be liquid, to be able to sell those shares, on a timely basis when you want to release them because they have liquidity. Okay,
right.
And then the next characteristic of a share, it has to have income in terms of dividend, right?
Dividends.
Dividend means that at the end of the day, right, when you close your books and you look at what we call the bottom line, which is your net profit, you take all your expenses out. You take all your expenses out, then you come down to your net profit, and then your after tax profit is what is the amount that is available for declaration as a dividend, right? And most companies don't pay the entire dividend out, the bulk amount out to their shareholders. They have something called a dividend payout ratio. So, for example, if you earn 100,000, you make a determination that we will only declare 30% dividend payout ratio. So we're declaring and we're paying only 30% of the dividends that we earn, right? So you can do that. So Liberia can benefit from having a financial architecture that what creates a mechanism to raise capital. Is capital raising, and
Okay.
capital raising also helps you with spreading the risk,
Right.
right? So the
Yep.
one person doesn't own all the shares. So, for example, if I'm an investor, I have a lot of money. I will look at how I'm going to do my portfolio. I may want to have shares. I may want to have gold. I'm going to have mutual funds. It would depends
Stocks.
upon the profile and what your investment
Right.
objectives are. Because when I work as a financial planner in the United States, we don't go to poor people, widows and orphans, and put them into variable securities. We put
Right.
them typically into fixed income, and that's the
Right.
bond market. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Okay, so the next question that we have here, and again, because we want to stick to this whole, looking at it from a Liberia standpoint, and the reason being because as you mentioned, Sierra Leone now has a stock market, Ghana
Yeah.
does, Nigeria does.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think, for me, I think we're in a position to do that, but I could be wrong. So the next question here is, do you think we're in a position to do that? And in addition to that, I want you to think about the type of companies that are in Liberia that could benefit from it, right? Um,
Okay.
right.
So okay.
I think you mentioned Cimenco. So are we in a position to do that? And
LBDI,
if so, what the country?
LBDI, Jetty, SETI, all of the major corporations that are here. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of companies in Liberia whose shares are listed on international stock exchanges. If you look at in the mineral sector, for example, ArcelorMittal
Yeah.
have their shares listed on international stock exchange.
Hmm.
Hummingbird Resources, they own the alternative index market, right? And then of course you have B Mounty and so and so and so, right? But their
Right.
shares are not sold in Liberia. If you want to buy the shares, you have to go to the London Stock
International.
Exchange on the
Right.
alternative index market to buy those shares, right? Now, one of the things that we first need to do is to set the regulatory framework, because
Thank
because
you.
because since you're talking about money and investments, the first thing we need to do is to set up a regulatory authority. Most of that currently is under the Central Bank Act of 2000, and there've been some adjustments, right? So before we go further, I think we need to have an independent regulatory agency similar to the SEC. That's the first thing,
Mm,
right?
hmm. Hmm.
So in order to do that, you need to build the capacity, right? So then maybe we just see how we can incubate the regulatory authority at the central bank, incubate it, and we can spin it off later into an independent regulatory agency. That's how we can start, right?
Brilliant. Yeah.
So the
Brilliant.
central bank right now is regulating banks, regulating non-bank financial institutions, and regulating the insurance industry. In fact, one of the things that's happening in Liberia right now is that the insurance industry would like for the central bank to get its hands out of regulating the insurance industry. They figure that there's too much insider problems with the central bank regulating insurance. So that problem will also develop with the central bank also regulating, you know, the securities industry in the country. So you might want to form an independent regulatory agency. That's the first thing you need to do. You have to have the
Mhm.
regulatory framework.
Right.
And the rule of law is extremely important, right? Because if you want to have a stock market, and as you know, Alex and Gabriel work in the stock market, they're always, I won't call it controversy, but they're always contention between buyers and sellers. Mistakes are made, and you have to have a place to take those
To
to be
dispute. Right.
adjudicated.
Right.
So there are layers and layers and layers of things that have to do, but you can start little, right? You can start with a stock market that very low cap, a few companies, and you don't need to do daily trading. Maybe you can do monthly trading just to start, right? So the way Sierra Leone has done. So you find companies that want to raise capital, or you have or shareholders that want to bring their shares to a place where they can have that liquidity. So that the other things. So, but the conversation has to start with or commission, committee, experts to see based upon the financial architecture in Liberia. How can we start? How can we do it quickly? And what would be the most advantageous route to take in creating a stock market? But it has to be baby steps. You can't do it too fast. You can't go to electronic trading. You can't go to daily trading or hourly trading. You can't do that. You first need to set up the regulatory framework before you go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alex.
but Sam, as you stated, currently the stock exchange, or what the OTC, over the counter trading, is being hosted at the Central Bank of Liberia, and as you already stated, elements of that stock is enshrined in the Central Bank Act. So Liberia already have the basic framework to offering a stock exchange, sort of. So there have been activities going on in terms of some level of over-the-counter trading at the Central Bank of Liberia. A few years ago, MTM, for example, the Lone Star company, and the cell phone company did some trading. All right, trading in Liberia.
The issue shares.
Yeah, the issue shares, and
because I was aware of that. I think it was $10 a share.
They were selling shares in the around. I mean, people were going around. I interacted with people who were actually going around and selling these shares, and people were writing checks and getting documentation, because if you're buying shares, it's just exchange of paper, right? Right. In the companies. So the telephone company said, look, we wanted to raise this amount of money so that we can augment our business, right? So we're going out there to the public to get people to buy ownership into the company. So $10 per share, and people will sign, so how does central bank currently handle, that kind of stuff? Say if companies wanted to go public, for the public to contribute to buying shares and stuff like that.
Okay,
currently,
so I'm not sure if central bank has the capacity to do the analysis that are required to protect the public's interest. Yeah, the consumer interest. Okay, because you said that the issue shares to the public, but was that accompanied by a prospectus, like a full disclosure document, right?
Yes,
because you can't issue shares in the United States and sell to the public without a 10K prospectus or some sort of full disclosure document. So did they have a full disclosure document that was vetted to make sure that all of the claims that they made in there were legitimate claims? And did they have, for example, like if you want to put shares on any stock exchange, you have to have audited financial statements, right?
Thank you.
And the audited financial statements will determine the veracity, the authenticity of the financial position of the company. Exactly, right? So who's there to protect? Who's there to protect the public, right? So I don't know these things, and those are the questions I would have. Since I heard about them selling the shares, but I did not do a deep dive into it to find out whether these prerequisites were satisfied before they started selling shares. So I don't know that. So yes, they sold shares. I heard that. Okay. But I don't know whether they issue a prospectus, a 10K, something akin to a prospectus. I don't know how the public interest. And also, when you sell shares, it has to have the feature of liquidity, right? Means that when I own a share and I want to dispose of my shares, if I have a personal situation, I must be able to go to a place. Because that's the whole idea behind a stock market, because it's a secondary market for liquidity purposes, right? and also determine the equilibrium price of a share based upon supply and demand. And one of the things that you guys know about share, which is extremely important, is appreciation, right? Not just dividend. Because people don't just buy shares to get the income, right?
Mhm.
If market conditions appreciably change and the value of the company goes up, then the value of the share has to what?
Increase as well.
Appreciate.
Right.
Appreciate. And that can
So,
only be
Sam,
determined. Go
so
ahead.
Sam, it brings to the question that I wanted to ask when I gave that example with the telephone company. What what are the requirements to establish a stock exchange? So, what would be the requirement to establish a stock exchange, a full-blown stock exchange in Liberia, vis-a-vis what is going on now? I don't know, that is being undertaken by the central bank. What are those requirements? Even if it
Okay,
is
so great.
even if it is housed at the central bank, like you stated,
Yeah,
in the interim,
yeah.
until a full-blown stock exchange commission is formed and stuff like that. What are those requirements?
Okay, great. So the thing is to when you doing any kind of project, you have to do a project document, right? And the project document have to look at your aims and objectives. What are we trying to do? Trying to open up a stock market. Great. Okay.
Mhm.
So on the checklist for opening a stock exchange, the first thing is regulation.
Thank
What
you.
are the regulations in the country? Do
Mhm.
they conform to international acceptable standards? Are they, I mean, are we ready for a full-blown stock market, right? And is the regulatory, are the rules and regulations that we have in the Central Bank Act, are they sufficient to protect the public and also to provide the needed investment capital to the companies, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
So that's what we need to do first. To check out, let some legal experts, some financial experts get together and look at the Central Bank Act and look at current present day reality, global reality, right? And
Mhm.
within the confines of Liberia, whether we can have a stock market and it can be adequately regulated, and the consumer, the buyers, can be protected. That's the
Mhm.
first thing we need to do. So we need to
Right.
go and review that Central Bank Act and
Right.
see whether there's enough in there to protect the public. That's the first thing. And whether the central bank too has the capacity to be able to do the review to determine whether a company can issue shares.
And that
So
was
that's the second thing.
Yeah, and that was actually that was one of the biggest questions that I wanted to ask. Besides the prerequisites of things that are needed to do is whether we and in the question that I wanted to ask, the technical know-how, right? I think you alluded to some of that. Like how is it like at Liberian? Let's say there's a stock market. We have a stock market in Liberia, right? And Liberia end up going to buy stock on the stock market. You know, forget the consumer understanding the risk associated with it. How is the government even able to be able to calculate all those like the technical like dividend per share to whether to make sure whether this is a good company to buy,
Yeah.
or to
Okay.
even put on the market, right? And I
Yeah.
think you alluded to that. So let me land my question. Uh, Alex, I think you're a CPA, right?
Go ahead.
I'm not even sure whether we follow the gap here or do we follow the international, what is it called? The FIFRS or whatever they call it. So
IFRS.
what kind of, right? Because that differentiates how you value a company in terms of
Yeah.
like if I'm bringing a company to market, right? And I bring it to the Central Bank of Liberia to evaluate, right? That is going to play a key role into determining how valued that company is to a typical Liberian and how that company is to somebody outside of Liberia, because it all depends how they recognize revenues. Do we have
Exactly.
technical know-how like that, right? And that's probably one of my biggest question. And
Yeah.
maybe I don't know this. I mean, you guys are CPAs,
Yeah, but
so
see,
Alex.
Gabriel. So now, then we need to do an inventory of scales, right? So if we
Hold on.
look at the regulatory framework, right? Then we
Right.
have to do an inventory of scales at the central bank, specific scales, right? and also like the accounting framework or the accounting
Yeah,
laws that will
exactly.
cover in terms of valuation.
Right.
And then also the other thing is what are the accounting firms in Liberia you have enough credibility to be able to pass on an opinion
Decision.
on the
Yes.
accuracy of the financial statements that are provided by the companies,
Hmm.
right? And then you have to have lawyers who are also very proficient
In financial.
in in financial matters. So they will
Yeah.
have to look at the regulatory framework. So the first thing for us to do is to look at the regulations, the rules and regulations, number one, and do an inventory of scales. Okay, to find out what the gaps are. And then when you do the project document, it will tell you the laws either are inadequate and what more laws need to be passed, and then what kind of human capacity need to be built before you do that. So that means now you have to have a public-private partnership because, as you know, stock markets are private operations unconnected to
Absolutely.
government,
Yeah.
right? So if they are private, unconnected to government, but they are regulated by the government, right? So then the first thing will be that some financial institution or some financial or some entity would have to brush the idea and say, look, we want to form the Morovia Stock Exchange.
Hmm.
So if you want to do Morovia Stock Exchange, what are the rules and regulations governing the formation of a trading platform in Liberia? Is there a
Mm.
law that governs that? Is there a law that governs that? So that's when you go back to the Central Bank Act and see whether it is appropriate, whether it's sufficient, and whether there is capacity to monitor that. So that's
Hmm.
those are the kind of conversations you ought to start having.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the stock, establishing a stock. I'm hearing you say so. Establishing a stock market in Liberia will start from the laws, regulations, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, the
And
regulation. Yeah,
also because you're talking about the whole idea of stock, as we say, the word stock, stock. Yes, even though it's a document that is given to you, but it's about a company raising money, whether privately or publicly, right? Like you said, a private company can decide to raise money, asking different people, private people, and there are private, way to raise funds by companies. So it's not public means it goes out to a stock exchange and everybody can buy stock ownership. So I gave you money, you gave me a piece of paper. That means so to the value, say if I give you $100,000 or I give you $100 and your stock price is $50 per share, right? So if I give you $100, I own 2 shares in your business, right? If at the end of the day your stock price is $65 and at the end of the year you make a profit and you say you're paying out dividends, which is
Hmm.
what I get from my stock, and you're paying dividend at the prevailing stock price of $65 an hour, I make an income, right? Because I bought it $50.
Yeah.
All right.
yeah,
So companies come. So those activities, it's like you're going to the market and buying and cassava leaf or pepper and stuff like that. So those kind of activities are brought to the market. All right. So there has to be all these different infrastructure because this is not like you're going to an ordinary market and giving money and you're getting goods, right? You probably trading by mobile money and you're getting a documentation, a receipt through electronic platform or things like that, or paper document are exchanged that you bought shares in this stuff. So there's a whole 9 yard there. Then also people do not, for a stock market to be formulated in addition to the law, there has to be these stock brokerage companies because individuals don't just go to the stock
exactly.
they,
Yeah,
let's say the buying shares. Is your financial planners, these people who are working with the stock brokerage firms who
Right.
go to buy that stuff. But then the reason I'm saying all this is that there got to be companies, right, that are trading, that are giving out, that are trying to raise money, because selling your shares as a company is about raising money, right, to improve your business and giving. So other companies, besides the law, besides the capacity to for people to be trained, because people have to be trained in all these stock exchange business. I remember back in the day when I was working in Ghana, that when they started a stock exchange, I attended a training there too. As an auditor, I attended a training there because we were trained how to audit companies that were traded on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So that capacity has to be built. But the question is, Sam, is do we have enough capacity in terms of entities? In terms of the companies, Simeco, the companies that would now be trading on that stock exchange, do we have that?
Yes, you do. You look at the banks, GT Bank, you look at UBA, you look at EcoBank, right? You look at all the they got a lot of multinational companies in here, right?
Okay. Yep.
They're already here. They're domiciled here.
Okay.
And in addition to whether you have enough companies to provide a quantum to make it worthwhile, the answer is yes. But the other question that I would have is, in the United States, the National Association of Securities Dealer licensed me as a broker.
Yeah.
A Series 763 license, which is the NASDAQ is independent, but it's self-regulatory, right? So, so in terms of the people who are working within the industry, they have to be licensed. So now the SEC does not license me. It will be the NASDAQ, which is the trading platform that licensed stockbrokers. So then, in addition to the regulatory on the government regulation, right? Then it will be also in terms of the people who participate in the industry, who serve as brokers, whoever service that you provide, fiduciary, you must be trained, you must be licensed, and you must be able to pass due diligence, right? Because you're dealing with people who handle money and people who are part of the public trust. So yes, if you look at, to answer the question, yes, Simenco, ArcelorMittal, B Mountain, all the banks, and they don't forget the large Lebanese companies here too, like city builders with chains.
They can issue a subsidiary, right?
The insurance companies here. So in terms of, I won't know what
Sam, city builders and those kind of companies, they don't come to the public. They don't come to public trading.
No, but I'm saying,
those guys are merchants. Yeah. They don't come to public trading.
No, I know. Okay, but okay, so you were saying that in today's Liberia, right? You see that in today's Liberia, but in tomorrow's Liberia, what city builder wants to be like a Home Depot? I want to be like a Lowe's. Okay,
raising money.
So in order to build that capacity to be like a Home Depot or Lowe's, they would have to have infusion of capital, right? So instead of Mr. E going to Cyprus and borrowing money at a very high rate, he would decide to issue shares for expansion into Ganta, into Plebo, into other parts of the country. I mean, I'm talking about not just today Liberia. I'm talking about tomorrow's Liberia.
But also, also the banks you're talking about, they are sort of branches, or they are sort of subsidiary of
exactly subsidiary. Exactly. So then, what's wrong? With them? What's wrong with the holding companies offering shares on the Monrovia Stock Exchange? Nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah, because if I'm correct, when the mobile company did the stock trading in Liberia, actually, if I'm correct, I stand to be corrected. Actually, that whole process was started in another country, right? And then they had brochures and stuff like that, and they brought them. They were sort of trading in West Africa, or in Africa. So they kind of had representatives in Liberia, and they hire people to train them the boys and the girls were going around to the different hotels and stuff, and and marketing these stocks to people. So if I'm correct, again, I stand to be correct, it was not something that was initiated in Liberia. Right? It was initiated outside, and they were just doing the trading, person to person trading in Liberia, if I'm correct. So I'm saying this because all these different banks like EcoBank has their parent company, maybe I think they have their headquarters in Togo or something like that.
Togo,
and these other companies from Nigeria, these other banks from Nigeria. So a bulk of that stuff is done in Nigeria. How do they then come to trade? I'm just talking about some of the reasons why we have not come to the level of establishing
that is possible, though. That is possible.
How we can do that?
That is definitely possible. You can, I think Sam alluded to that, right? So you can have let's say there are companies that are in China right now that are trading on the US stock market. They have trading they're listed on the Chinese stock market, and they are listed here as well. So you can issue a subsidiary of stock in another country, because as you know, most of those banks that are in Liberia, even though they're mostly in Nigeria, they have the Liberian subsidiary, right? So it will be like EcoBank Liberia or UBA Liberia, right? So that's a complete entity for itself. So let's say if they do want to grow that EcoBank Liberia, right, instead of taking money from the one in the parent company in Nigeria, they can issue shares to the Liberian people, and like you said, to expand it to different counties and grow that EcoBank to the point.
So that presents an opportunity.
You see, Alex, one of the things that we always want to think about is Liberians have to ride the growth curve of an emerging economy, right? Yeah. So if you don't own stock in companies that are operating within your country, right, and they're mostly foreign owned, so the dividends go out of your country, right?
Thank you.
So let me tell you how I got to. I will give you a short background how I got to South Africa. When Nelson Mandela was coming to power, there's a whole model called Black economic empowerment in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes. So where they look at 100% of ownership of all the companies were in the hands of white people, right? So they said, okay, we need to develop a model where you have to have Black economic empowerment, where these companies will have to sell portion of their shares to Black people, so that Black people can ride the growth curve of a growing economy, right? So if we have the political will, for example, we can say that companies with a certain cap, you can't say that to a company with $100,000, but multi-million-dollar companies, in terms of their equity, right? You can say, look, take 15, 20% of that and sell it to Liberians, right? And then, see, one of the things that we're looking at is say low income in Liberia, but Liberia now spends the diaspora. There's an Alex Coffee in Minnesota with a 401k or with income that looking at for growth opportunity, because a lot of the growth opportunities in the world now are coming from emerging markets.
Emerging markets,
and emerging markets have the largest growth potential, right? So now, an Alex Coffee or Gabriel Carter can take a small portion of their cash or whatever asset and invest it into a growing company in Liberia. So that way, with that is about wealth ownership, right? And you're riding the growth curve of your economy. Because right now, Alex, we're about 5 million people. And with 5 million people now, you can make a lot of millionaires with 5 million people. Because just our import bill is 1.2 billion. So Alex, just imagine now who's making that money. Look at all the supermarkets on Tottenham Boulevard, about 10 of them. 10 of them. Look at the cash flow they have with 5 million people. And with 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you go to 6, then you get to 10 million. That's a huge economy there. So did Liberians ride the growth curve of this growing economy, or we sat there as spectators? So that's what we be thinking about.
Great point, Sam. Go ahead.
One of the biggest things that I think I like about the idea, but I always get taken aback, is how, because this is, when you say stock market, it's not just a stock market, it's a security market as well, right? But within that security market is the what we call the future, right? So,
Mhm.
and how that can benefit the local farmer in Lofa, Bond County. So what I mean by the futures market, the futures market, people trade like the
Yeah.
stock, they trade wheat on the stock market, on the futures
Oh,
market,
you talk about
cow,
commodities
corn,
exchange.
right,
Commodities
right, corn,
exchange.
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
corns, wheat,
But in fact, Gabriel, a commodities exchange is easier to
and a
create
stock
and
market, right,
implement than a stock market.
right. It will be
Yeah.
part
For
of that
Liberia
that
right
whole
now.
security. Right. It will be part of that
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
security exchange. Let's say Alice
Yeah.
Coffee has a farm in Bond County, right?
Yeah.
And and you let's say you grow corn on that farm or you grow rice on that farm. I can come to you, Alex, because we now have a stock market. I can the rice that you're going to grow in a year
In
time.
5 years time.
I can buy it from
Right.
you this year right now. You
Yes.
have the
Yes.
money there already. So all you got to do is
Yeah.
grow the rice and send it next year. You just got to supply it to me. What does that do? You
Exactly.
have money to now be buying
Yeah.
other farm, making other farm. Like
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
will be benefiting to the average people that
Yeah.
you see that plant corn, that plant
Oh yeah.
rice, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. You can
Japan.
supply
Yeah.
to like. I mean, there's so much potential in it. The future aspect is for me. I think that's what I look at it from, like especially people in the agriculture field, how they can benefit from that. I'm gonna be growing corn next year. I don't have to worry about where I'm going to sell that corn. I can supply that corn to, let's say, the Grand. What is that hotel name? I can supply it to them for them to be cooking or grilling for their customer, right? And they can buy it from me right now,
So
right?
that,
So
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
Gabriel, you're right because, for example, we're having a conversation with some people who are making business, and they're making business out of products from Liberia, right? They're producing, say, palm oil or some cream that is produced from a product in Liberia, cocoa or something like that. So their problem is that they're not getting that quantum of supply from Liberia to expand their business. So
Yeah.
what you're saying is on the commodity market, somebody can say, look, I'm going to buy that product if you produce 200 tons of that, per year.
Yep.
So, and then this guy can take that now and go to you can pay, he has funds to do that because
Right.
he
Right.
has the financial wherewithal to produce that goods, and then like you said, he can also invest in other places. But
Yep.
that brings to mind, I think, Sam, you wanted to say something before I ask that
No,
question, or
no.
go ahead.
I'm not great. In fact, I mean the whole thing about a futures market is great for agribusiness, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
one of the problems we have in Liberia is the quantum of dollars that go to finance agriculture. Only 4% of bank credits go to agriculture. But now if you're talking about developing a futures market where people can buy futures and
Mhm.
that give farmers capital
Yep.
to reinvest,
Yep.
mechanize, store, package, warehouse, and transport.
And
So
span.
now you
Right.
build an agribusiness. You can do that, and
Mhm.
that can be done very easily. It is easier, a lot easier than the stock market. A commodities exchange
Alex.
is a lot easier than the stock market. Yeah.
So then,
Alex.
my question is, what has been inhibiting us? I mean, as a country,
Thank you. That's a great
because
question.
the last time I remember, the stock exchange in Accra, in Ghana, was started in the 90s, in the
Yep.
mid 90s.
Yep.
All right. So what is, and then you're talking about stock market in Sierra Leone and stuff like that. So what has been stopping us from doing this? Because it sounds interesting. Some of the things I'm hearing here, it sounds interesting. So Sam, what has been the problem?
Okay. So I blame myself. When I came home in '78, as a banker, I should have stuck to banking and not to politics, right? So
Okay.
people like us
Too
who
late.
basically deviated from their core profession, their core competencies, and others would have followed, right? But
Yes.
when I came, the political situation was not right, so I wanted to change that. Okay, so I contaminated myself being as a political activist. But people in America, they know me. I'm an investment banker. Okay, so the thing is, we don't have the capacity, the human capacity. That's where it starts from, and then besides the human capacity, there has to be a burning desire by people within the private sector to get this done. Like the Ghanaians, they're very nationalistic, and
Yes.
ownership
Yeah.
and
Driven.
ownership is extremely important. So we don't have the same kind of a culture
Right.
in terms of our
Right.
business culture, finance culture. So if we did that and we brought enough people in who have the skills and the desire, you have to have a burning desire to do this, because this going to come with a lot of work, a lot of burning to make that oil, building. Regulatory framework, building capacity, and independent regulatory agency, all of those things and the Ghanaians did that, but they didn't do that overnight. It took time. So if Liberia wants to start, we need to start now. So
Yeah.
we don't have to build a NASDAQ, but we can build a small trading platform and put
Yeah.
just a few shares on it for practice. Okay? We'll make
Yeah.
some mistakes, right? But as we grow, we'll build a capacity, and then we can start, for example, the University of Liberia. Nothing wrong with me going to go teach a course in investment there. Okay, other people coming to go do teach courses in investment, and then getting something similar to like a Series 7. So the guy who gets the Series 7 license is a licensed broker. He can go out there and he can peddle shares and other variable securities. So that's what we need to do. We need to get the people with a desire first, the burning
Right.
desire. Then you go approach the government now to build a regulatory framework and to have this amiable public-private partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam.
So
When you mention the word capacity there, or lack of capacity there,
yeah, I squirms at that too.
I saw Gabriel squeezing his face and
Yeah.
asking you like,
We do.
No, I'm talking about in
you gotta
country. I'm
explain
talking
that
about
what you
in
mean we don't
country.
have the capacity as a country.
No, we don't have the capacity in country. In country.
But no, it's okay. So let me, Alex, is it okay if I come in for just quick?
Go ahead, go ahead.
So I think we have the human, like the 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 willingness there to do it. It's just like you said, the skill set are not there. Like you said, somebody to go to the University of Liberia to teach a course on security, right? We don't have that. We don't have people willing to do that. Like you said, when you went, you're a banker, but when you went, you deviated from your profession and went into
Yeah.
something else. Many people
Yeah.
do the same too. Most people just go to Liberia and gravitate from that and go into politics because it's the easy route instead of sticking to that. But I think the capacity is that, like, there are Liberians that are willing, that can do that, and there's two things I want to say. We overlook the amount of jobs that this, just by creating this sector, will have in Liberia, and I think you guys alluded to some of that. Imagine establishing the regulatory entity. That's people that's going to be running it. That's going to get paid, right? Imagine talking about the brokers you guys talk about. Imagine having people who are licensed to do brokerage work around the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
That's jobs, right? And you talk about
Traders.
Alex talk about the auditing body. Like if a company want to go public, the place they will go, like the Goldman Sachs we have here, or the JP Morgan, that
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
take them
Yeah.
public. The auditing body that will be able to attest to those financial strength of those company, right? That's people being able to establish auditing firm just to take company public. That's all you do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we also can look at people that invest. There are people
Yeah,
that
that's true.
trade for a living, that don't even work, that just trade for a living. But to answer that question, I absolutely think we do have the willingness there, but it's just the skill set for that. Trading stock is not a walk in the park, right?
So
There's a lot of, it's technical, but we don't have the courses there, or the people willing to teach those people how to trade. Yeah, go ahead,
so
Alex.
Sam, the last time I remember when Gabriel just reminded me, I was part of PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, team of auditors that took the Ashanti gold fields in Ghana to the stock market. So there is a legal element, right? The legal people have to come there because we're talking about
Lawyers.
documentation.
Yeah.
So there's lawyer part, all right, to taking a country, to taking a company. First of all, the Ghana government decided that we're going to divest a certain percentage of our ownership in this company, in the Ghana stock in Ashanti Gold Fields. All right. I think that year it was just about 10% of their ownership in that company. So it required lawyers to look at all the regulatory framework, the documentation and stuff like that. It required the reporting accountants, which were the auditors, right? Were 5 people that went to Ashanti Gold Fields to do the whole audited financial statement, the forward-thinking statement, the financial. So we stayed there for months. I remember that time, the first time going into the mine under there to see the gold bullion and stuff like that. So I still have pictures of that. So then you have the stock brokerage firms that would now prepare all that prospectus and all that different things. So it's a combination of people, right? 3 or 4 different professions, right? In that, then the stock exchange. The stock exchange is just the place to now go and launch the stock and sell this in the stock with the commission, right? In this case, in Liberia, it's the central bank. So we have the central bank. That's capacity, institutional capacity we have. Don't we have? I mean, yes, lawyers, not the everyday lawyer, because lawyer has to be specific in investment law
In
or
financial
corporate law,
investments, right?
Yeah, you know. Then you have auditing firms in Liberia that have the capacity to prepare these financial statements. What we probably don't have is the stock market, but I think we have something like that at the central bank, like you said. We already have that at the central bank for a status.
We have the framework in some sort.
What then is lacking?
But Alex,
the willpower to do it.
The central bank maybe facilitates that, so you can it maybe facilitates the training of it, and I don't know what documentation go along with it or how to set it up, but the regulator to be the implementer, it is not. I mean, it's not intellectually accepted principle, right? Because you cannot regulate and then do the trading. So something is out of whack there. So we need to do some more deep dive in terms of to determine what role the central bank plays. If does the central bank play the role of a facilitator?
In this case, the central bank is the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, so to speak.
It is. Yeah.
Because some trading have been going on at the central bank, and they keep the trading documentation and stuff like that. Some trading has been going there, which we refer to over the counter, the OTC, over the counter trading, because we don't have
OTC in Liberia.
Alex, isn't that mostly T-bills?
That's because I've never heard company trading and
because I think
for example, when latest example, I remember when I was head of the FIU, there was a bank. There was a bank that was bought off by another bank, right?
Acquisition.
Acquisition. But that process was maybe as a regulator of the banks, that's why they did that. But whatever exchange of investment, the funding and stuff like that, that was handled by a central bank, through the central bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with you. And for acquisition, I think I don't know if I disclosed that I was talking to a couple of folks at the central bank because I heard there was a bank out for sale. So I was inquiring about buy some shares in it, right? So they do that. So what they would do, let's say if you yourself wanted to go in and buy a bank or whatever it is, right? They facilitate that. They want to make sure that you have, first of all, the enough capital to be able to buy the bank or buy shares in it. So whoever end up taking over that bank, the central bank oversees the acquisition transaction. First of all, the first reason would be that you're coming in with good intent and to make sure that you have the enough capital to meet their capital requirements and all of that. But maybe there is, I will be, somebody can correct me here, but I don't think I've heard of any OTC. Or other than that, I would love to participate. If they
Well,
have
but I
over the
think,
counter, I would love to
There
yeah,
is an
participate.
OTC at the central banks. There is
yeah, I
OTC
think,
at
but
the
I
central
think
banks.
it's for the T-bills. I think it's for the T-bills because they have this trading platform there for the treasury bills.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they
for the
do have
treasury
that, but
bill.
they do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have that, but the central bank actually, serve in that capacity to
Okay.
to
Yeah.
to facilitate trading into companies. Some level
Okay.
of trading, the people buying shares into
Okay.
some company. They do have that. I remember when I was much younger in the 90s, I flew from Ghana to do some audit work. We flew from PwC Ghana to do audit work for central bank. Yes, I interacted with that. So I quite remember that there is some trading besides the T-bill documentation and all that. There is some actual OTC trading at the central bank. Central bank into that.
So when you say OTC, like companies, let's say I have a company, I can trade shares over the stock, over the counter, like, and
Central bank has facilitate that. It's not a full-blown stock market, but they
so
kind of facilitate that process.
so then in that case, we need to Liberian people need to know about this. Like, if there is, then that means people that have companies that need to
Yeah,
be
but
aware of this
no, they don't have the full-blown. They don't have the full-blown capacity. They just
capacity to do
it's just
that.
a facilitation point for exchange of those things.
Yeah.
You remember that recently there was an issue with bearer shares and stuff like that, right? And that trading in bearer shares and things like that.
Right.
The law was amended to kind of fix that because there was money laundering concern and things like that, which is a worldwide thing. It's not a Liberia problem, but Liberia was trying to conform to the international framework. And so part of the amendment, I think I quite remember it came into the central bank stuff to prevent bearer shares and things like that, so that to prevent bearer shares is something like where you buy shares, you issue the thing, but you can issue it in somebody's name, or you can issue it.
Yeah.
So you don't put a name on it.
Shell
Like
companies.
that.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, shell company operation and things that to prevent that. So central bank law was amended. So those things go on in central bank. The lodgement of the share certificates and stuff like that, the central bank facilitate that.
Okay.
So we have some.
No, I say it's interesting to know that. Very interesting to know that.
I need to follow up on that too. We have
if
a
you talk
question
to
here.
What's his name? Collie Tamba and those guys used to do that kind of stuff. I think that was their area. Collie Tamba. I think they
Okay.
if you talk to Collie Tamba, you know, I think. Yeah, that was years ago. That was 91, 92. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question here that's it's one from, I think this is from Anthony. He said, and this is a great question too. I think we should look at it. He said, from the cybersecurity risk associated with running a stock market is a major factor. What can we do to prevent and protect a possible Liberian stock market? That is a brilliant question.
No, it's a good question, but that presupposes, right, that we're going to leapfrog into electronic trading.
Electronic trading, EFT and other stuff.
Exactly. So then, if you're doing electronic trading, that is a stretch for Liberians to be doing electronic trading now, because I don't think the volume of shares will be able to the trading costs will be able to create a platform for that. So we will be strictly doing ledger trading for now. Okay, where maybe we'll do Excel spreadsheets to get owners of record for now. I think
so. Central Bank's gonna keep record of that.
There will be some.
Yeah, that will be. Oh,
don't relegate us. Don't relegate like
that. I'm just joking, right? But I'm saying we will be moving slowly to an electronic platform eventually. Yeah. I think our accounting systems will be electronic, but in terms of our trading of physical shares with share certificates, I think a lot of that, because when I got an investment bank in America in the 70s, we did a lot of what do you call it? Manual work, but that is gone, past. So,
You're already to now with your hand.
yeah, no, but listen to me. But even like when I worked for Bank of America, I used to go to the Federal Reserve daily. I used to carry a sack of checks on my back on a train to do physical clearance at the Federal Reserve, 1973, 74. That's what I did. I had a sack on my back with tens of millions of dollars worth of checks on my back on the train. Okay? Nobody knew. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm saying, but then later on, we left the paper exchange payment system. We graduated into the clearinghouse interbank payment system. Now, of course, you have real-time gross
Trading.
clearing system now, right? So, but the same thing for us, we have to go, and learn it and go small. Maybe in a year, we can build that capacity. But I think initially, in order for us to really get integrated into this trading platform, we have to go very slow. We have to train the people, and then we grow, and then we can move to electronic. But yes, he's right that when we go to electronic trading platform, we have to have cybersecurity experts to make sure that people don't duplicate sales, people don't try to compromise the system. He's completely right about that, because you cannot create a stock market electronic platform without cybersecurity experts to avoid fraud and compromise the system. Absolutely, he's right. Great thought. Good question.
Yeah, but that's a good question. But I mean, we're laughing about it, but there is an element of cybersecurity prevention that goes along with Liberia trading. For example, people stay. We do internet banking, right? We still do. I sit here. I do internet banking with Liberia, right? So you can have an account in one of these banks. Some of the banks, not all of them, but some of these banks, and you still do your trading. You can, I mean, not trading, but you can still do your banking activities and things like that on the internet. You can still do your mobile money transfer connected. Now, one of the banks is connecting, in fact, connecting the mobile money directly to your bank account. So if I sit here and I want to send somebody mobile money, I can send it directly from my account in Liberia, right? So, and also I remember as the head of the FIU, there was some transaction regarding cybersecurity and stuff like that we busted. So recently also there was part of the recent freezing of asset was the fact that somebody was doing microstructuring, which was detected as well. So we have an element of why it is true that we may not have the world-class sophistication, but we have some element of those things present in Liberia. So to answer Anthony's question, yes, a lot of the banks, especially the regional banks, the Eco Bank, the regional banks, they have those things incorporated in their day-to-day transaction, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, those concerns are being addressed as part of the normal banking processes, especially with a lot of the regional banks, and with the presence of the FIU and all these things. Those things we have some level of protection, so to speak. Like I say, we may not have all the almighty sophistication like the Western world, but we have something going on.
So would that be transferred over to, because if you're establishing a stock market, you're not going to rely on, on the protection that those institutions have. You're going to have to develop your own, and like Sam mentioned earlier, to have your own cybersecurity expert to be able to.
Yeah, I mean, those when you're establishing those things here as part of the process for compliance, those things are embedded into your processes, right? To protect your customers, because failure to protect your customers, you can be subjected to liabilities, okay, and you can be subjected to certain rules. So those things, when you're setting up those things are embedded in it. So to think that, oh, we need all the cyber security experts in the world and stuff like that before we establish a stock exchange, yes, it's a factor, but it's one of those low hanging fruits. It's quite important though, but it's not the number one or number, the third or the second item to that will stop us from doing it.
All right. So do you guys want?
My question is still not answered. So all these years, what is preventing us, or what has been preventing us?
No, but what preventing us? I think it's the
willpower. Okay.
Yeah, the desire and the will to get it done. Because you're right. I mean, we don't. There's no shortage of Liberian professionals, but it's just that the will is not there. Okay, and people come in and they do different things, but if a group of Liberians serious, they came together and they formed the Monrovia Stock Exchange, and they approach the public and private sector people and say, let's move this. It can get done. It can get done. So why not?
Let me flip a little bit. Like, okay, in to give it the way I'm talking about tourism, right? I'm just going up tangent a little bit.
Yeah.
For example, what is preventing us from fully doing a tourism situation in Liberia? All the places we have. What is preventing us from establishing a real tourism market, if for lack of a better word?
Okay, so let me answer as an economist, right?
Comparison here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I will speak to you as an economist. Okay. We need competitive economic advantage, right? Mm-hmm. What do we have the physical attributes? We do,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
But we do have the physical attributes. But tourists want to go someplace that is safe, right? Where it's easily accessible, right? And and that country must be strategically positioned as a tourism destination. It is all about marketing, right?
Thank you.
Once you get a safety issue, okay, and Liberia is now recognized as a safe place, then of course the infrastructure, and then the next thing will be marketing. We need to have a completely independent tourism board that goes out there and sells Liberia. Either ecotourism or tourism on the ocean or something, but there has to be marketing. I think the marketing will come after we build the minimal infrastructure that is required to attract the people. And then
Sam. What minimum structure do we need?
Okay, so
what
for example,
structure do we need?
Okay, so how many sources of let's do you're an accountant. Let's do a simple check. How many hotel rooms do we have in Liberia? Right? How many hotel rooms do you have in Liberia? So if you bring in 5,000 people here, you don't have enough rooms for them.
Yep.
It's not possible.
So you got to resort to.
So the thing is the tourism, man, they have to look at our capacity to absorb tourists, because anytime we have a major conference in this country, you never have enough hotel rooms.
No, we're talking about
hotels that have the amenities, or hotels that have the amenities that will even pass a trip advisor thing for how many stars, right? That's the thing. Because if a guy goes to a if he goes to a Roche motel and he posts it on TripAdvisor, I came to this so-and-so place in
everybody sees it.
Everybody sees it, right? So the thing is that you have to develop you have the minimum standards, minimum amenities. Gambia, minimum amenities.
Alex, for you, we will do a show on tourism.
No. The reason I'm asking this question is I'm trying to tie it into this stock exchange business that we are talking about, right?
Right.
Sam has some points, and then you are all excited, but let me kill your excitement small now, right?
Okay, pop the balloon.
You
Go
know,
ahead.
sometimes in the word he mentioned, I accept 100% the marketing.
Yes.
That word marketing.
Yep.
Because to me and to a lot of people I've heard, the issue about tourism for us right now is the marketing, is the packaging. What do we have? What ecotourism do we have? What do we have at Rubber Sport? What do we have in Grand Cru? What do we have? What do we have?
We have
Okay.
everything.
When I went with GMAP, among all these foreign folk, when all these people were in Liberia, those people used to go somewhere every weekend, right? When they're not going to Patawi Waterfall, they're going to Cape Ma, they're going to, the guys saw so much beauty in Liberia that even as a Liberian, I didn't see.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was go to my football field or go rally my people there, go to Niputa and help my people there, all that stuff. And these people were going to the beaches, carrying their surfing tools every weekend.
Yeah.
Right? Utilizing what we have there. Now, what I'm saying is that shows that we have the areas. Now, go to Senegal. I went to Senegambia, right? And what I saw there, I said, well, what are we doing here? What are we doing in Liberia? Because the place they have the alligator thing where everybody pays money to go, for example, between October to March of every year, you have tons of people. Senegambia is not it doesn't have all the infrastructure. In fact, Sam, I will tell you, a lot of the hotels, in fact, a lot of the sleeping places that they are Airbnb, people give their house, their house.
That was the question. That was the next thing I was going to go to.
They don't have, they probably have 3 good hotels there. The rest of them, the rest of the living quarters are as a result of demand. Alex,
you're talking to the choir. I worked in Gambia. Okay, I lived in Serekunda. Okay, and yes, I worked, but it's been a while now, more than 20 years ago. But I can tell you, when I did that, and I saw the beaches and saw some of the crummy hotels and stuff where the Scandinavians came to, I said, "But damn, something is wrong here." But at least they market it.
Thank you.
That's for the market. The market.
Okay. That is what I saw in Gambia.
So then, if you're going to do the marketing, then you have to be able to absorb them with the number of hotel rooms that you have.
Yeah, but you saw.
Then we can resort to the Airbnb. We can do the Airbnb.
Yeah. In Senegambia, for example, I'm just giving. I went to Senegal and all that stuff, but what we talk Senegambia is Gambia, right? They turned that place into a tourist place. They just got from Banjul all the way. They got one major road passing. They fix that major road, and there's road that comes in that one road that comes in that passes through Senegambia itself. That's just one U-shaped road that all they have. Yeah. The road that goes to the place that people go. People from Europe troop. You're passing through West Point.
I agree.
So, guys, I think we're going off a tangent too long here, and I agree. I think we should do I will put that on the agenda. We'll do one.
It is true that we need some amount of infrastructure.
Right.
Don't tell me, for example, in Cape Ma, all government needs to do is to build a long road that goes from the Mimba Magida Highway into Cape Ma. That T road, the road that goes into and then the road that passes through Rubberfoot itself, that long road. Right. That's all they need to build.
All right.
That's all they need to build. And then market.
Right.
When you market, the hotels, people will go invest. People will go and build places. You remember what his name, this boy has his place, the tents. There were 10. People were paying $150 for that thing.
Oh, yeah. Musa Shannon.
Yeah, Musa Shannon had those tents.
Yeah.
They were not used in a plane. It was not all that big.
And there were no bathroom themselves. No bathroom themselves.
People were prepared to pay $150 a night.
Let's
to stay
do it.
Before. right?
Let's do a show on tourism. I will invite Sam back, and you guys will be the expert. I think you guys have a maybe great
Well, I'm not
experiences.
expert in tourism, but I
No, but
won't
you
come.
can
Right.
bring somebody else.
I will bring somebody. We'll find
Yeah,
somebody
you gonna bring somebody else, yeah.
yeah, who's expert on tourism. And I agree with you guys with the marketing. Like if you, I tell people all the time, if you get on the Brussels airline, you come into what are you going to for tour from Liberia? Like if you go to their videos, they have like every country has this little 25-minute video of the tourism stuff in their country. I was in there looking for one on Liberia. Like so, the one that I ended up watching was the one on Congo. Right? They show like 25-minute video that show you all the activity you can do, like from a tourism standpoint. If you go to Congo, every country, but Liberia didn't have one. And I said, man, this flight is going to Liberia. Imagine I was somebody's going to Liberia for the first time. I could have watched it and say, hey, I have a new itinerary for what to do. So I agree with
And
you
what
guys, but I think
and what
go
he
ahead.
said, what he said something else about establishing. You know, like we're talking about stock exchange. We're talking about central bank. We already have a semblance of something like that at the central bank. When you compare that to tourism, we want be a tourism commission. We want a made law. We want hire the director general, the deputy director general before we start tourism. No, you already have the assistant minister for tourism at the Ministry of Cultural Affairs and Tourism. You
Do
can
your
start from
job.
there.
Do your
You
job.
can start from there. When the things start blowing on now, then you form the tourism commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they say you're saying
You already have the basic.
No, I'm agreeing. You can incubate it and then spin it off into an independent thing. I agree.
so you're saying we can do the same thing with the stock market. Just
Of course, absolutely.
capitalize
Yes.
on what's already existing.
But I think Sam is right on that part. It needs such a Liberian
Nurturing.
who are ready, because when the stock exchange started as a result of all these boys, all the Ghanaian boys coming from boys and girls coming from Ghana, starting the data bank and starting this other bank, and they realize that, my friend, this thing here, we have to, in order for us to raise capital for our, because we don't have the quantum of money to do this investment banking and merchant banking, we have to come together. So through that, they approach their government. But again, Sam, all those things require the enabling environment for us to be able to interact and start those things.
Yeah. I agree.
Guys, I think we should go to the comments.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will just begin to put them on here. So this is Joseph. He said good evening. He said earning before you're talking about.
I think no, Sam was talking. Yeah, I had the same mind. Sam was talking something.
Yeah.
Then I was talking about earnings before tax and earnings after tax. Yeah. So you're that kind of correct me to let him know that he knows accounting more than me.
Joseph, I hope you're still watching. Please come scoop Sam and Alex on this.
Yeah,
we have man, God help me, I can't say it in the Gakonwen.
Hey, my friend, yeah, go ahead.
All right. So from what you are explaining, I don't believe Liberia can form a body, that will have the integrity and guarantee the security needed to protect the stock market and stockholders. Jesus, the country is polluted by corruption. You want to respond to that? That's a heavy statement.
But I mean, there is a lot of corruption in Liberia, and in order for a stock market to be up and running, you have to have strong integrity institutions, and to make sure that, I mean, I cannot argue against that. That is a critical requirement for any sort of capital market or any financial architecture to be built. You got to have strong rules and regulations, and you have to minimize corruption. I agree, absolutely.
Yeah, and that goes back to the point that you're making, that any central bank needs to separate it. They can't be, they can't be doing both. Regulating this stock market and
then trade. I mean, so what if they make mistake? Then who's watching the regulator, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I agree with you. Gakonwen, thank you for a great comment. Great comment. Yes, it was a comment actually. We have Morris Morris said, healthy professional classroom lecture by Sam Jackson, but merely good for his host. Man, you were right. People coming after you again. Cuckoo,
No, but that's fine. I mean, that's
Cuckoo
an
Jimoku
opinion.
advocacy for personal placement by Samuel Twet. There must be personal integrity, the same thing that is being enforced for
Yeah.
enforceable accountability. This lecture principle to be adapted in corrupt Liberia. I think somebody Joseph alluded mentioned that as
No,
well.
he's just trying to
Yeah,
politicize it, but he has a point,
Yeah, exactly. He does.
yeah,
He
comment.
does.
that's fine.
Yeah, comment by the previous one. I was listening
Yeah,
when I went out,
yeah.
but these are good comments, and I think I too share without the hustling part. I share the first part with CC Morris. Sam did a great job by explaining this stuff.
Yeah.
Minus the other one.
Yeah.
He did a great job by explaining this thing. But again, when we're talking about rules, the previous comment it
For
led me
Joseph.
to, yeah. When Sam talked about the regulations, because for example, we don't have something for market manipulation, right? And insider trading and stuff like that. We need strong,
Exactly.
rules on insider trading and market manipulation and stuff.
Yeah.
So
And Samuel said, the rule of law is a silver bullet for development. Absolutely.
yeah,
And I
Absolutely.
have another one here. This one is from Emmanuel Jackson. Emmanuel said, we don't have a free enterprise system or free market for Liberian serious barrier to entry. For Liberians own businesses to exist. Right, man. And no industry of bond market or fixed assets for risk management. Sam, you want to comment on that or anyone?
Well,
yeah.
if
Let
look,
let me try a job at that.
if you're talking about so I just taking the generic. Anything you do, it has to be de-risk, right? So how do you de-risk the operations of a stock market in Liberia? You
You
do it like you do
cannot.
it any place. No, but no, you can minimize the risk. You cannot eliminate
Right,
the risk.
right,
So, for
exactly.
example, the things that Alex talked about, market manipulation, insider trading, we have to create laws to guard against those kind of things. So that is the reason why it's extremely important to look at the current regulatory framework and our laws
And
to
enhance
ensure
them.
that they are appropriate,
Right,
okay, to accommodate a robust stock exchange today
right,
in today Liberia.
right.
Yeah,
Because
but Sam,
the Central Bank Act is what 22 years old.
It's probably
That
outdated.
was
Yeah.
Central Bank. That's just outdated. Am I
Alex,
right, Alex? That's 2000, right? Central Bank Act.
yeah, but law is ongoing. It can be amended.
But
Amendment
that's
can
so. But
be.
then it has to be refashioned for current day realities, for to take into consideration some of the things you're talking about, like insider trading, market manipulation, and
yeah.
also the thing for the auditing firms. Okay, which standard they're going to be using and what have
Hmm.
you. So those are all the things that have to be put into place.
Yeah, amendments can be made to the law. Amendment can be addendum. It can be one sentence. It can be, yeah, those
Yeah,
things can be.
but I think we need to have
A
a
whole
a
framework.
whole new set
Yeah,
of laws
yeah.
concerning securities in Liberia, because Liberia
Yeah.
is getting to a place now where you need a securities market,
Right.
right? So not just for stocks, but all variable annuities and all kind of variable products. Okay,
Right.
and then look,
Yeah, yes.
Alex,
There's a space.
let me
There's a
finish.
space.
Let me
There's
finish.
a space. Okay,
Let me
go ahead.
finish. So
Mhm.
we're not looking at stock. We got to look at derivatives too now. You have to
Thank
look
you.
at options,
Yep.
puts,
Yep.
calls,
Yep.
how we regulate those things, margin trading, all of
Yep.
those things there. So you can't just go, because the Central Bank Act does not cover like margin
It
trading.
doesn't. I
It
don't think
doesn't
it
cover
doesn't go into that.
options. It doesn't cover derivatives. It doesn't cover all those things. So it is extremely important that we put together some kind of a task force to create those laws to make it into current, to bring it up to date, because I think it's too narrow a focus just to regulate the trading of stock. And there's a stock is just a small part of the whole trading platform today.
You are 1,000% right, Sam. And again, if I quite remember, there was some discussion or there documentation to that effect about the what was the name of that document or the law? There have been some things that have been written, which would point, which was in a form of a draft investment or something law. There's something, but again, because I was not focused in that area, so I don't know where the ball dropped. But there were some discussion, and there are documentation to the effect.
I don't doubt there is, but I think what we're trying to say, I think what there should be like a whole, besides this whole central bank stuff, there should be a whole.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. There's a whole different different set of write-ups or draft law or something on that whole, in the attempt to open a stock exchange. If I'm correct, there's something. We do have
Alex,
the idea. Yeah.
Let's not reinvent the wheel. One of the things in the year 2000, when I joined the Taylor government, they wanted to bring the what do you call it, the revenue and finance law. They wanted to bring it up to date, right? Mm-hmm. And also the minerals and mining law up to date. Mm-hmm. So all we did was, and at that time we didn't have the capacity. I just MBA, banking background, and Minister of State. So we said, okay, let's look at comparator countries. Let's look at their laws, right? And where they are and how we can customize it to our law. So the revenue and finance law of 2000, we did a great job because we looked at Ghana.
Yeah.
We looked at Ghana, right? And then the minerals and mining law, because Guinea had a robust mining industry, we looked at Guinea. So now if you want to put it together to a stock market, let's look at what Ghana and Kenya are doing, other countries that, like us, right? And let's look at their history, where they started from, and let's see the progression, right? And let's pay people to go study the stuff, and come back and write a full report and say these are the steps that need to be taken. Yeah. But when LeBron let people to go to look at that thing, they say,
so
I'm going to pay $50,000 for research.
Ghana stock market started. The act started in 1969. They didn't start trading until 1990, right? But
exactly.
Itself,
exactly.
1969.
Exactly.
So you can see, yeah. So that was.
So you see.
Yes.
So you see. Yeah. Right. Yes, back. So they started the regulatory thing, and they went up when they build a capacity, and then they have the cap trading, right? Yeah. Before they started the trade, Sierra Leone is trading only like once a month. Sierra Leone stock market once a month.
All right, let's continue with the comments. So we have Houston. I think that's how you say it. The fact that the conversation is being held is a good starting point. However, the Liberian economy is too subpar to what extent? But anyways, to introduce a stock market for now, the everyday Liberian world needs stable, sustainable income in order to even think about investing. Most of the population is just barely getting by. Any reaction to that, gentlemen, before we proceed?
Yeah, but okay, so every country has poverty, right?
Yeah,
so a stock market is not designed for people to go and put, because it's a gamble. Okay, it has a huge upside, but the downside is you can lose your money. In every prospectus, it tells you the possibility of losing your money is there, right? Yeah. So the average poor person in Liberia doesn't have the risk profile to invest in the stock market. But there are others, maybe a small number of people in Liberia and in the diaspora and foreigners who are here who can invest in stuff. Because the idea is to have a place to put excess cash where you don't put it into savings account. So it's the risk capital, you know, and then you might have the risk appetite and the risk profile to do stock market trading. So yeah, so he's right about poverty and income, but I can tell you the average person who lives in Camden, New Jersey, or East St. Louis is not investing in the New York Stock Exchange. That's for
Thank
sure.
you. Yep, absolutely. Great response. I love it. Mama's son, Jesus. Wow, I hope Mama listening. So one of the problem is, can we trust the CPA firm in? Oh, I think somebody alluded to this. Can we trust the CPA firms in Liberia to express credible and independent audit opinion on the financial statement of these companies operating in Liberia?
Well,
I think you
Alex is
guys,
for you, oh. That's
yeah.
for Alex.
Alex, you're
Alex
representing
for you.
CPA firms. You're muted.
Sam, do we have
I want for you.
Do we have a credibility and integrity issue over in our country? That because these things are pointing to all these. I mean, not just Mama's son alone on the CPA firm, but the other questions that the previous questions is all about integrity and whether we have, in fact, what the previous question you were just trying to answer was, when you talk about Ghana, right? When at a certain time, Ghana had after the successive coup, in the 70s and 80s, Ghanaian left their country in droves. Ghanaian were getting in line to buy food. In fact, they were coming to Liberia. Like I remember President Doe, made some contribution to Ghana to that effect and opening up the country and the Ghanaians to come in. I was a kid then, but I do remember that. But in the 90s, when Jerry Rawlings got there, the whole trajectory changed. And Ghanaians started going home in their droves, like I said earlier, and all these things were being established in Ghana and stuff like that. So again, the first place is, do we have that environment for some of these conversations we're having? Do we have the integrity? Do we have It
will happen when Alex Cummings gets elected. So.
My friend, we don't talk about politics here, man. But we having a conversation here, please. So
go right ahead.
So again, it all goes to the general society. Yes, so he's right. Mama son is right about the CPA firms in Liberia, but I can tell him that they have some credible CPA firms in Liberia, especially the international firms.
We have PwC there, right?
Yeah, we have PwC there.
PwC there. I mean, yes, these.
Yeah, so we do. Some of the local firms may be wanting, but we do have some credible international firms. We have Baker Tilly there.
Baker Tilly.
We have PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers there, working there.
PKF.
So just to name two, and then we have
PKF.
Is that PKF? I haven't heard about them. Maybe
don't force that name, my mouth. We have
PKF Foster not there.
Yeah, PKF there, but don't force it in my mouth.
That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't want to say. Maybe there's a reason.
We also have what's the boy name? Packer. We have Packer and Associates there too. I'm naming friend that I can put my neck on the line for. My man, I can put my neck. Don't force it in my mouth. You can call it. So we have.
No, but you're not better than me, Alex. I mean, you're the master in that area now.
Let me name the firm the way I name it.
But he's giving you reference, so you should be able to call the reference that he's giving you. Don't leave it out.
But I called 3. He called the other one.
All right, let's go on. I
got the message, Alex. I got the message loud and clear.
Yeah, man. Right. Don't force me to go in the corner. I don't want to go in.
We got it. All right. So Wonder. I would just say Freeman. He said Liberia does have a law on stock trading and regulation. I remember doing a legal research at the foreign ministry and saw the law in hard copies. But the Liberian economy now cannot sustain a stock market. I wish they would elaborate on it.
Yeah, so Wonder is right, like I was saying. Yeah, Wonder is right.
Explain that, right? No, he's right.
No, so because I was saying, I thought I remember there was something.
But Alex, before the central bank before the Central Bank Act of 2000, there was a trust law in Liberia. If you remember, there's a trust law. Now that trust law there, and I remember when I was in grad school, I knew that there was only one company in Liberia that was allowed to sell stocks, and our international trust company, ITC. That's what I remember. So yes, there was a trust act on the book, yes. But I think that trust act was adjusted or amended or something, and the Central Bank Act of 2000 went and took the responsibility of regulating securities in Liberia. So he's right. Before there was, but the central bank now is the one that is regulating securities in Liberia. The state of
It
securities.
shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, but I don't know the content of the law, what role central bank is playing. But like I said, I mean,
Regulator. They regulate.
Wanda just corrected my thoughts here that I know there was something. So, by the way, Wanda is a lawyer, so that's true. So we have something on the books where we just have to build up on it. So okay, Sam. Before you bring in Jackson's question, so Sam, now we with this confirmation from Wanda, we have something on the books in terms of the law, even though laws can be amended, because I know we don't have anything on market manipulation and stuff like that. So laws can be amended, right? A little bit, but so now it leaves us with what now? So we have the regulation. What else we need now?
The technical body will come in. The technical body.
I don't know.
No, but the thing is, we have to go and do the research, find out what the laws are, and then, of course, look at the capacity and look at the current operation and confirm what you said about whether with the central bank, with the OTC. So you have to do all those things, and then write a concept document on the way forward. That's how you proceed, and then this will be like the roadmap for developing a stock exchange in Liberia.
You'll be surprised that you'll be surprised that in your research those things will be there. You will find those things there.
Oh yeah. I won't. No. I'm not being presumptuous. I know. Listen, everything that is to be done in Liberia is written someplace. I know that for a fact. Yeah, I wrote a book, and I was very surprised at the amount of scholarship and work that's been done by others. I take nothing for granted. So it's about research.
Okay. So, Emmanuel, again, he said income level of Liberians currently is below the poverty line. I think somebody we alluded to this, or the standard of living adjustment. A standard of living adjustment is a real, retail economy exporting all of its natural resources, the stock market. The stock market creation starts with Liberian buying shares in the companies operating in Liberia economies. In Liberia, and awarding shares to government officials.
To reading the medical team, man.
No, it's just
the income level of
the way it was written like this.
No, let me read it. The income level of Liberians currently is below the poverty line or standard of living adjustments. You finish with that one. Liberia is a retail economy exporting all of its natural resources.
Going on. That's not
the stock market creation starts with Liberians buying shares in the companies operating in Liberia. Companies in Liberia award shares to government officials engaged in corruption with them. The only operating steel company in Liberia hire Liberians as day workers with no benefits.
Thank you. It's just the way it was written. I'm sorry, but that's...
Yeah, so you see...
Any comment?
Not from my side.
I think Sam addressed what Sam Jackson is saying. Emmanuel Jackson is saying. Even though America is... Let's go to Sierra Leone and Ghana. When Ghana started its stock exchange in the 90s, Ghanaians were not high and mighty and stuff like that, but they started a stock exchange because there were a lot of companies, like you said, there was a lot of companies in Ghana which could come to the stock exchange and other people were buying the shares. It's not just the mom and pop that were buying shares. So it's happening in Sierra Leone, like Sam Jackson said, and it's once a month. So we could adapt the same thing as once a month. It's just not the ordinary people who from the beginning that buy shares.
Right.
They can be company to company. They can be different people. We have sort of a middle class. People can buy shares. Like Gabriel, you were talking about buying shares in a Liberian company. We have a huge diaspora.
I was looking at buying a bank, not a share. I want to.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're looking at buying a bank.
Gabriel and Alex, one of the things that we need to also is that's not only individuals buy stocks, institutions buy stock. So, for example, so you got NASCO, right? Which is a pension fund, right? The pension fund typically invests in some degree of equity and they do a balanced portfolio, right? Other different pension funds, retirement funds, banks with their spare cash, they can. I know that some laws at one time used to prohibit American banks from buying variable products, but I don't know whether it's changed now, and I better look for a long time.
That's why you have the merger of investment bank and commercial banks.
Yeah. So
they broke that.
So you have institutional investors. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Metal Steel with a pension fund being invested into the Liberian stock market. And I don't know where they're investing that money now, right? So like a lot of the large Firestone, for example, must have a pension fund. Are they investing that money in Akron and supporting in companies in Akron? They could put that money into Liberian companies here to rather grow the economy. So we have institutional investors that can come to the fore.
And if you had that kind of situation, you can actually invite them into. You can even go there to sell.
But you can invite them. It will make sense. It will make sense. It will make sense for that to happen. That's why when people talk about the stock and the low income, they're taking away the institutional investors who are the number one players in the market in any country. The institutional investors, those are the ones that drive the prices and the value of stock. When the big boys come to play, the mom and pops run away. The mom and pop, there's a small percentage of the stock market, but it's the institutional investors that buy huge chunks of stock.
Yeah, but they're also the same. They're also Liberians in the diaspora that are waiting, that are looking for ways to invest.
Absolutely,
money or whatever in Liberia, as they hope to go retire in Liberia. There are people with money that want to invest in Liberia.
Yeah, so I agree. That's coming. This Wonder guy again. He said Liberia best bet is for a regional stock exchange, say a stock exchange catering to 3 countries in the MRU, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. Liberia opens the stock market. I think if Liberia opens the stock market, will it not be liquid? It will not be liquid, you say, if they open the stock market.
It will not be liquid. So then let me answer that question.
Yes, please do. I was going to add.
Yeah. So Wanda Freeman is doing an excellent job, right? To have an integrated Mount River Union stock market is a great idea, right? But I'm a Liberian nationalist.
Thank you.
I would like for us to build. I would like for us to build the capacity here first.
Yep.
We get the skills, and one of the reasons why I'm against the West African power pool, because we are a net importer of power, and the West African power pool was supposed to be where we share power. Okay, and then he's right about liquidity. Most stock markets, most stock exchanges in Africa have limited liquidity, especially places like Sierra Leone, where they only trade once a month. So he's right. So there will not be that liquidity, but we can improve on the liquidity. We can improve on the liquidity by bringing more. The way we can do that is by bringing more players in the market. Volume.
Right.
Volume can do that, right? Yep. And then also to do all forms of derivatives like options and puts and what have you, and develop the financial architecture to be able to like do real-time trading and settlement. So that will provide liquidity if you can do real-time settlement.
No, I agree. I agree with what
I couldn't have agreed with Wonder more. I mean, again,
I
like
agree with what you said, but I think if we do the volume and if I think the option that will afford us the liquidity thing is if we have real-time trading. So let's say I bought stocks, yesterday I want to trade it, I should be able to go back on the stock market and be able to trade it and have liquid cash to me. But if let's say we do open a stock market where you're trading either once a week or once a month, I'm going to be holding on to that money or stock for a month, and then to come the month hoping that if I go back on the stock market to trade it at, you are on the other end is you're willing to buy the number of shares that I'm trying to sell. What if you're not? That I'm stuck with that. So I agree with them. Yeah.
But see, so those are the reasons why in developing the architecture you have to have a market maker. And in America, the market maker is the guy who is specifically designed to buy and sell that. Whether there's a buyer, that market maker, there's no individual buyer. That market maker, which is a firm, will buy that stock at the listed price. So those are the things that we have to do when we're setting up our whole infrastructure. Who would be the market maker? Let's look at an example of Ghana, how they develop market makers, whether they have market makers in Ghana, how the institutional trading goes, how they induce or infuse liquidity into the banking system, into the trading system. All of those things, that we have a lot of work to do on this. A lot of work.
All right. So, man, this guy's busy. He said, yeah, I know. He said, but if Liberia joins forces with Sierra Leone, Guinea, the stock market will be big enough, liquid to sustain trading. But Liberia alone can't Liberia alone can't. Level of saving is too low and economic activity too low. What do you guys say? Specifically to the last two sentences, what do you guys think of that?
Okay, so savings equal investment. And we agree that Liberia is a low income country, right? So, but we also said that we're developing a middle class. And then we also have institutional investors. And we have Liberians in the diaspora that we want to also invest. Plus, we have foreigners who are living here who also want to invest. So I think that the most important thing is to determine what will be the market cap of the Monrovia Stock Exchange. The companies that will be interested in coming and putting the shares on there, and then we'll be developing the mechanism in which to do the trading and how we provide liquidity, real-time trade, and all of those things that people should be concerned about: market manipulation, insider trading, money laundering, and all of those other things. That's why it's extremely important to put the regulatory framework into place. And if we don't start now, but at least let's have the regulatory framework going forward.
I absolutely agree. And I think I agree with everything he said, but I think a lot of people are focusing on they think that when we say stock market, we're just looking at just the typical Liberian, yes, eventually people will, build income to that level to be able to invest in it as individual investors, right? But I think from the initial stages, it will be, companies, like we said earlier, institutional investors, and most of the international companies that are in Liberia, and eventually, as we grow to become a middle income, country, that's when people average day Liberian will be able to have income disposable enough to say, hey, I have enough saved. This one I can go put it in the stock market. But
but Gabriel, I ask you a question. Gabriel, besides people who have their 401k invested in the stock market, if they choose to in America,
right?
How many ordinary Joe Blow got money into the stock market? They don't put money in the stock market.
Exactly.
Not the ordinary. So the ordinary average Joe does that through his pension fund, right?
Yep.
So the ordinary Liberian will be doing it through his pension fund. If we develop something like a 401k or whatever, because see, that's what I said, it's extremely important for you to look at the financial architecture of a country. You have to look at it from the time you're born, and identity system, social security, and Alex, right?
Yep.
For you to get your security, for you to be able to get access to credit in the bank, for us to have a like a what I got to say, man, the Equifax, credit reference bureau, all of those things have to be built. Yeah, credit. So the financial architecture has to be built. A stock market is just a small part of that financial architecture. So Liberia has a very undeveloped financial architecture. We have to build that. So the conversation should be not just about a stock market, but building a financial architecture. Let me give you a statistic. Only 7% of adult Liberians have bank accounts. So there's limited financial inclusion. It is.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the intermediation of GDP, right? What we call a circular flow, right? In Kenya, 90% of transactions are intermediated by mobile money in the banks, right? In Liberia, there's a large degree of informality. A lot of the transactions are cash and carry.
You put this on fire now. Sam is getting on fire, man. Yeah.
No, but I'm telling you. No, but I didn't want to get so technical, right? But but it's getting interesting because the thing is, we have to build a financial architecture. That's the first thing you do. Okay, and we don't have the financial architecture built. So we can do both a parallel track with a stock market and building the financial architecture.
Right.
The financial institution, right? You were talking about one bank that you said needed capital. So Alex will be able to answer this question. How robust is bank examination in Liberia?
That's one of my biggest.
Because I know for a fact. Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you something, Alex. I know for a fact. Okay, that many insolvent banks in this country. It's a struggle. You see, because in 2019, somebody came to me with an intel. There were a lot of insolvent banks in the country. Insolvent.
Yep.
Right? Yes. So
we did a show on that.
There is limitation in the robustness of the bank examination procedure at the central bank. Because how they allow certain banks to go to the point where they cannot give money over the counter. And that happened a lot in Liberia, you know that, Alex. Where the banks are insolvent for all practical purposes. And I'm not going to go into anything about what I call it, Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3, in terms of capital adequacy, all that kind of bullshit, all that kind of baloney.
We did a show on here, and we did a show on here, and we named some banks that if people knew how to read balance sheet, they would have done a bank run in Liberia like at the time in 2019. If people knew how to read bank balance sheet or balance sheet as a whole, they would have done, because they were so insolvent, so leveraged that if somebody go look at that balance sheet and say, no, I'm going to get my, like, you would have ran to the bank and just grab your money. But we've had a show on that, nothing happened, and it just flew under the radar. So trust me, I agree with you. Hey, I think we should be wrapping up here. So let's take two more.
Let's wrap up because my woman waiting for me to go out tonight.
Jesus Christ.
We're coming now, so
okay. Okay. Learn from Sam to learn, how to pick, But anyways. Kennedy says, this is tough. He said Liberians are not serious reason the head. What? Maybe he meant serious being. The head need to put in place the monetary values and securities. From Harris, Kennedy, the political. The man is identifying himself here. So he said Liberia are not serious in order to be able to put in the technicality or technical
monetary
skills
value and security
needed to put in a monetary thing in place to see a stock market. I don't have anything to say to that. The last one here, we go to Gakonwe again. He said, now that you guys are talking about banks in Liberia, I opened a bank account last month in Liberia while on a visit. So you think I did the right thing by depositing the funds in Liberian banks? I mean, yes.
I can't get financial advice though.
Thank you.
So the way I'll answer his question is,
Thank you.
I too have an account in Liberia, both Liberian dollars and US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I transfer money from there every now and then, and I use the account to do what I have to do in Liberia. Of course,
Right.
But the experience was not good in the past because sometime back before the war, I had money. I was in Ghana. I mean, after the war, I had some money. I was in Ghana and I had some money in the bank, but the bank went under, so I lost that money. So, but now I have my money in one of the regional banks. So, I don't keep. It's not a lot, but at least it's a lot enough to transact. And if I go to Liberia, I can access that money from there. So,
So on that note, I have a question. Sam.
Let me
Maybe
get
you
to
can answer
something.
that question. Why are you saying that?
Let
So
me
we have.
let me just respond to. Well, I want to Alex.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to call the name of the bank, right? But I have an account at regional bank.
mm-hmm.
I was so impressed with a debit card.
Oh yeah,
Everywhere I went
yeah.
over the last 8 or 9 months, every country, South Africa, Ghana, United States of America, I used that debit card there with ease and no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I used to be thinking that my Wells Fargo was going to be my primary place to put my money. No more. I put in my money in a regional bank before the feds come to get me.
Echo Bank.
Oh,
So I have a question for you guys. And I don't. This is something
I can take.
No,
I
but
can
listen to
take
me.
cash and all.
UBA. So UBA Echo Bank.
You
All right. So I have a question for you guys to answer that guy's question.
I'm very much impressed with UBO.
Oh yeah, they're a global bank. They're becoming a global bank. Do we have depositors insurance in Liberia? Where if you put your money like Alex said, you put your money there?
No deposit insurance in Liberia.
From my experience, I lost my money that time, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
No
One more
deposit
comment, guys,
insurance.
and then we go. All right. This is from Sage. Sage said, in addition to having robust financial architecture in Liberia, how many current Liberian companies could potentially be listed on the Liberian stock exchange? I think Sam answered that. Sam, Sage.
No, but I mean, let's just go to the big ones, right? Let's go to the
Yeah, go ahead.
Semenco.
Right.
Let's go to let's go to Semenco. Let's go to Firestone. Let's go to B Mountain.
Right.
Most of the companies that will be able to be in the stock exchange for now will be like companies domiciled in Liberia here, Liberian domicile, but they will be mostly with foreign holdings.
Right.
Let's just be very clear about that. I don't think you have except for like a bank, the LBDR, right?
Yeah.
And then another thing that I want to bring to your attention, when you starting to go toward privatization, where state-owned companies are now being, the state is divesting ownership in these companies, right?
I would
They
love
can take
to
them to the stock market.
LBDR. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying if for example, LPMC, right, or any one of the state-owned companies that or NPF, for example, right? If the government of Liberia decides they want to divest ownership in those companies, and they can put that on the stock market also.
Yeah, exactly. But they're not looking at that. All right, last one, and then we go. This guy actually hounded me, said I've been skipping his question, so let me just do him a favor and put it on here. He said, and this is his comment. He said, access to internet connectivity is a serious. I can't say that name. Blogosphere, right? Blogosphere. I've never seen that word, so please, I will go look it up after this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let me look it up for you.
You're teaching me.
Blogosphere is the people who do blogs. That in the world. For the bloggers, and the word for the bloggers.
Emmanuel, thank you. You just taught me a new word. What's the percentage of those who have enough to be stored in a bank? Most SME, most small and medium-sized enterprises run on sale today and buy the very next day.
That's a pay.
Sell pay. You're talking about. Do you guys want to take after this? Will you guys take a stab at this and then we can wrap up? You talk about the connectivity issue as well. I think in top of that, as internet connectivity, in addition to that, we also have to add the electricity, like stable electricity, right?
Yeah.
And also, I like to tell this story. Hopefully, Rich is here listening to it, right? I have this buddy who, he works for, one of the big tech company here, beginning to work from home over the pandemic. He wanted to move to Liberia, right? But long story short, the internet connectivity wasn't stable in Liberia enough for him to move there, right? He ended up moving to one of the other African countries. So that tells you that, that's somebody that could have moved to Liberia who, could have been contributing to the economy as well. But I think internet connectivity and electricity are one of the two most, because you cannot run a stock market where your your internet, you don't have stable internet. But most importantly, you can run a stock market where you have to worry about current go, current coming, current go, current coming. In the middle of a trading, you don't want to run out of current. So, Emmanuel, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, the blogosphere is the person. It's a
and
noun.
thank you for the blogosphere. That's my first time hearing that as well.
Personal website and blogs collectively.
Blogosphere. I remember that. So anyways, gentlemen, I think we're at the end. Sam, do you guys have a closing statement? And in our closing statement, I think we should answer the question that Alex keep asking. What do we need, given everything that we have right now, right? Whether we have the law that hasn't been, fully developed, the research or whatever, what should we do now, or what do we need now to be able to bring this thing to fruition, to make it a thing?
So, okay, I think we need to do some research to find out what laws exist in the books, right? So that would be an analysis to see whether the regulatory framework is there that can sustain a functioning stock market in Liberia. Number one. Then, of two, the second thing would be an inventory of skills, the capacity, right? And then the fourth thing that we're going is to do a market analysis to determine the volume, okay, of terms of equity of companies that are potential to be listed on the Liberian Stock Exchange. Or maybe we should start backwards to find out first, before you start spending money in the regulatory, all that kind of thing, to find out what are the quantum of shares that could be put on the Liberian Stock Exchange. Then you go. But so either way, you have to do, or you can do it simultaneously. Do the market survey to find out what the shares, the quantum of the shares, and then you do the regulatory framework, or the other way around. Either way, you need to do some research. Either way, you got to start, you got to develop it with the will, and you got to get it done now. And even if you do it in the future, you must set up the framework today.
Now, yeah. What about the technical know-how?
But then you develop it as part of their programmatic approach to a roadmap. Yes.
Okay. Alex.
My thing is, Sam spoke well, but my thing is, there has to be deliberate attempts on our part as a country and as people.
From a political will.
And as individual, right? Yeah. There have to be deliberate attempts at doing things, at moving our country forward. All right? From a leadership, country to a people to individual level, right?
Right.
I'm saying this because I saw that work when I lived and worked in Ghana. That there was a deliberate attempt by the people, by the leadership, to make things work, to first create an environment for people, for institutions to thrive. and for individuals, part of it to thrive, right? So Liberia is still ripe. Liberia is still virgin for that. But that environment needs to be created, by leadership. And then the people, the institutions can thrive, and all these things that we're talking about. Because we talk about the stock exchange thing, we've now found out that there's a law, there's regulation that is on the books. We also talk about the fact that it needs, deliberate effort by Liberian individuals who will now come and say, "Oh, we have a law, we have this, we can do a concept paper, we can do this, and we can start a stock exchange." Despite, someone say, and all these things can come along, like Sam said. So it's a whole thing as a country that we have to be deliberate. The same way we talk about tourism, we got to be deliberate that we're going to establish this thing here and we're going to move forward. Despite our limitations or our challenges, we got to move forward. So again, it comes to creating an environment for these things to happen.
Yeah. No, thank you. And Sam, I think you guys said it best. I don't have anything to add to that. And Sam, thank you for joining us. And I hope you, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And what you're doing in Liberia.
Papa, thank you today. I mean, you were on top of the game today. Yeah.
You didn't distract onto this. I was worried. You didn't distract.
No, he didn't distract.
Let me tell you something about.
You didn't distract at all. You were to the point.
But listen to me now. My first love is banking. My first degree at banking. I love banking. Oh, I'm crazy about banking. Yeah. In fact, when I came to Liberia in 1978, that was my dream, to open up a bank. But then I got sidetracked by all the politics here. And over the years, I still have that dream. But what I'm going to now, with my LSE degree, I'm going to do the African Municipal Fund, right? It will be a global fund, a continental fund, to help African cities to raise funds, to do revenues, regenerate the commercial business districts, to do a lot of great things like waste management, all that, so like financing cities. That's my approach for the next.
Like a venture capital?
Yeah, it will not be venture capital as well. It will be more like a facilitator. So you go to a city and you tell a city, you say, look, I want to take a look at, I want a consultancy to look at your own source revenues and look at your different sources of revenues, like, for example, like land value capture, how you can increase real estate taxation, how you can do other things, because a lot of the cities in Africa now, they are appendages to the national governments, whereas in the United States and other things, they're independent and they run their own budget, they have their own city council, they have those kind of things. So that is the whole international best practice now for cities to have the what they call it, a decentralization, where cities will have their own budget, their own taxation, and their own development agenda for cities.
Right. You will use Liberia as a pilot?
Well, the thing is, Liberia is not ready for a lot of the things I do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Liberia is not ready. It's so sad because look, let me tell you something. When I went to South Africa in 1992, and after Nelson Mandela was free, I mean, they actually hired me to help them with Black economic empowerment. Most of the money I made in my life, 90%, came from South Africa. Because I went over there, I was able to put myself in the minds of Liberia before 1980 and 1980 people coming. So what the people needed to do is to have ownership in the means of production, right? And we develop a way that we give them shares and we use dividends. We use the future dividends to pay for those shares in the Black. And that's how we made a lot of Black millionaires and billionaires in South Africa. Yeah. People like the Cyril Ramaphosa, the current president.
So that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do.
I come to spot a horse show that the way I come to spot a horse show that Sam, the way I saw you to the party headquarters, I thought that's something you want to do.
But man, let me ask you a question.
That is a trap question. Don't answer that.
Okay, let's leave it, Papa.
That's a trap question. Don't answer that.
LeBron not ready for people like us. Let me be frank with y'all. They're not ready for us.
I agree.
And let me tell you, They prefer for me to be doing muya. That hey, but if they want us to do real solid business, I got the credentials. And
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
No, but I'm saying, but every government that come,
You had it on FOL.
Ellen Sally wanted that too. Ellen Sally wanted that too. Ellen Sally, I brought in a major company here to give Liberia a sovereign credit rating.
Yeah.
But listen to me. But listen to me, Gabriel.
Go ahead.
Gabriel, listen to the thing. It's very important for the people to know. Okay. Liberia needs a sovereign credit rating. So we can be able to go out there. Okay.
Please say that again. Say that again.
If it's a low credit rating, Liberia, yeah. So even if it's low, if it's not investment grade, but at least you will know when you have a low FICO score, you will know what to do to improve your FICO score. So you can go out there to wean yourself away from the multilateral financing. That you can't do no significant development of infrastructure, just with this a World Bank loan and IMF thing.
That's how I love talking to you. I know we clash, but that's why I love talking to you. Yeah. I know we butt heads, but that's why I love talking to you. But anyways, Larry is a big proponent of that.
I'm here, Alex. I've been here for 20 years. Listen to me. I'm here for 20 years, but they want me to be doing politics and not my profession. I just look at it, I just laugh. Right. So I just go up, make my money and kind of bluff. So we all be like, we all something. Yeah.
If I make me too much of that, just what?
No, but Gabriel, if we have enough professionals globally to fix this country. We have enough.
Yeah.
We have enough.
I usually tell people my biggest passion, which is something I'm going to do, is I think I keep telling you guys to buy a bank and run a bank in Liberia, but also do venture capital in Liberia, because I believe there's a need for it. Not only is there a need for it, it's something that I'm passionate about. But people keep telling me, hey, Liberia's not ready for venture capital. We're not ready for venture capital.
That's not true.
That's
not true.
But we'll get that line. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But anyway, gentlemen, I love you guys.
So we gotta close the thing.
Yeah, let's love me. I'm gonna leave you.
Yeah.
And do you guys have any more comments to any?
No, man. I see. I feel putting myself in trouble already. Bye.
And guys, as we always say, we have these discussions because we care about Liberia. And there's always, as we said, there's a common denominator between you and I. Whether you stand on, you agree with what we say here or you don't. There's one thing that's always remained true. It is that we're all Liberians, and whatever conversation we have here, we do it to advance Liberia, to advance the conversation a lot further than we met it. So, as we always like to close, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for watching. Be here next week, the same time, 3:00, for our next show. On that note, we will see you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Ciao.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our